So who wants to go?
I can go first.
Okay. All right, whenever you're ready.
Okay. A couple years ago, I experienced something that I hope very few of you have to experience. We were having Christmas dinner at my grandparents' house where the whole family had gathered. While eating, my grandpa suddenly went unconscious and fell to the floor. He was unresponsive and struggling to breathe. Luckily, my cousin knew CPR and could keep his blood flowing until we could get help. That is when I realized how important it is to know CPR. There are 3 steps to know in order to perform basic CPR, and today I'm going to inform you of those steps. First, we determine if it's appropriate. Second, we do the procedure. And third, we repeat the procedure until medical help arrives. First, let's discuss how to know if CPR is appropriate. The first step in performing CPR is determining whether it's appropriate. To do this, we must determine if the person is unconscious and unresponsive. We do this by yelling first, "Are you okay?" If there's no response, we move on to shaking their shoulders gently. If there is still no response, we're in need of more medical help. First, you must call 911 before you perform CPR. Once we determine that the person is in need of help, we administer CPR, which I'm going to explain now. Let's go through the steps of how to determine how to administer CPR. First, we must check the person's airways. To do this, the person needs to be flat on their back and their head needs to be tilted back slightly. Then we put our ear to their chest and listen for breathing sounds. By listening for breathing sounds, we can determine if their breathing is abnormal or if they're even breathing at all. Then we administer 2 rescue breaths. To do this, the person's mouth needs to be open and their nasal passages need to be closed. You push 1 full breath in and check for breathing again. If the person is still unresponsive, we do the second rescue breath. We check to see if they're unresponsive still, and we move on to the 3rd step. The 3rd step is to complete compressions. To do this, your arms need to be over their sternum, and you need to be in the middle of their chest. You push down and compress about 2 inches. We complete compressions in sets of 30, counting and maintaining a rhythm. The 3rd overall step to complete basic CPR is to continue the procedures until medical help arrives. We do this by determining if it's appropriate and performing the procedure. We now know the basic steps to CPR. Let's review the steps to basic CPR. First, we determine if CPR is appropriate. Second, we perform the procedure. And third, we repeat until medical help arrives. Now knowing how to perform CPR, if something were to happen again, like it happened to my grandpa at Christmas dinner, I would know how to perform CPR and potentially save a life. Now you also know how to perform CPR. So if you're put in a situation like mine, you would be able to perform CPR properly on the person. Now we can all be calm and confident when put in the face of an emergency.
Great job. Cool.
Okay. And what's your name again so I can write it on the sheet?
Jaden.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I'm Emily, just so you know. Okay. Are we ready?
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Your heart beats thousands of times per day, but have you ever considered what your heart could be telling you? Being informed about the health of your heart is extremely important, and it can help out a lot of medical professionals. One of these measurements that can show the health of your heart is blood pressure. I've been a CNA for almost 2 years now, so I've taken hundreds of blood pressures, and I've really seen the importance of what this information can relay when medical professionals are determining what treatments or a condition that a person has. So today I'm going to teach you about how to take a blood pressure. So the first thing we're going to look at is the tools we're going to need. Next, I'm going to look at the procedure and the actual process itself. And then lastly, I'm going to look at how to take the actual measurement and what to do with it. So let's first look at the tools that we will need to take a blood pressure. The first is a sphygmomanometer, and that is this. And it consists of a blood pressure cuff, which is the pink part, the measuring device, which shows the pressure in the cuff, and then the valve, which inflates the cuff, and then, or the bulb, which inflates the cuff, and then the valve, which deflates the cuff. Now that we've looked at that, we're going to look at the next tool, and that is a stethoscope, which I think most people have seen before. And this allows you to hear the pulse sounds. Now that we know the tools, I'm going to show you the process of how to take a blood pressure. So the first thing you are going to do is locate the brachial artery on the individual, and so that's going to be right in front of the crease of the elbow. And so you're going to line up the blood pressure cuff with the part that says artery, and you're going to use the Velcro to wrap the cuff around the person's arm snugly. So once this is in place, then we are going to position the stethoscope. So once again, we're going to use the location of the brachial artery to place the stethoscope. So you're going to use the chest piece and place it just right in front of the stethoscope, and you will hold it there. And then you will want to put in the earpieces so you can hear the sounds. So now that these two things are in place, we can begin to inflate the cuff. So to inflate the cuff, this will be on the individual's arm, and you're going to use the bulb to pump up the cuff between 160 and 180. Once it reaches this point, we can begin deflating the cuff. And to deflate the cuff, you're going to move the valve away from you. So you're going to do that very slowly. So once you start deflating, we are going to now look at how to get the actual measurements and to actually find the blood pressure. So we are going to begin looking or listening through the earpieces, and you're going to listen for the first sound, and this will be the systolic reading. So the first noise you hear, you're going to take note of what measurement that is at. And next we're going to find the diastolic reading of the blood pressure. And so that is the last sound that you're going to hear. So you're going to take note when you hear that last pulse sound, you're going to take note of that. So now we have a systolic and a diastolic reading. The systolic number is going to go on the top of the equation, and the diastolic is going to go on the bottom of the blood pressure equation. So now you'll have the blood pressure. And so with this, you can use this to inform medical professionals, and then they can use this information to potentially save someone's life. So let's review what we've talked about today. So today we talked about the basics of taking a blood pressure. So first we looked at the tools we were going to need. The next we looked at the process. And lastly, we looked at how to get the actual measurement and what to do with it. So next time you're climbing a flight of stairs and you feel your heart racing, you can think about the importance that your heart has. And using this information, you too will be able to take a blood pressure and potentially save someone's life by informing medical professionals. Thank you.
Cool, good job. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording really quick.